But I got very, very profoundly intrigued by what is going on. What is the truth? It just like haunted me day and night when I got into my early 40s. And that's when I had to leave, literally physically, but also psychologically, emotionally, a lot of root systemic roots were pulled or got pulled or were in the process of being pulled by moving away to Europe for 8 years. You have to move in many dimensions, it seems, or again, be moved, because there's no doer there. We know that. We had no say at all in anything. There's no me to have any say.
Right. No one of us is that intelligent that could do all of that.
Oh, yes, that's the gift, isn't it?
Yeah, I see it as spontaneous destiny. That's what I call it. It's destiny, but it's spontaneous.
And it's unfolding right now.
Yeah.
In that spontaneity. I mean, there's only that action occurring now. It's otherwise it's just a thought or
Even the thoughts are spontaneous. Everything's spontaneous.
absolutely. Everything that is spontaneous. It can't be partly or whatever, or a little here and a lot and coming and arriving and all of the conceptual things that time renders, the brain renders about time.
We could say even you could say in a sense spontaneity is the non-dual reality.
Yes. Oh, it's a way to describe, like you say, the non-dual reality. There is only life living itself. There's no personal, I mean, there's the mental ideas and renderings and all of that, and that's happening. It's not to say that it's not happening. It's more to say that within the field of awareness, everything is happening. Something like that.
That's what comes to mind when I think of James's topic of bliss of naked immediacy, because the naked immediacy, and here is James.
Yeah, speaking of James. So, James, what's happening with you? I gather you've got some horizontal horizon. You're moving in a certain direction, a certain way.
Something's happening.
Yeah, there's something happening here. What it is ain't especially clear.
Well, it's clear to me, but the insistence is unexpected.
Huh.
And the apparent maturing, sudden maturing, and I think it's part of letting go.
Yeah, more and more, huh?
Letting go of the world.
Yeah.
Letting go of identifying with the world.
Right.
And there's a little bit of mourning in that, but I don't care.
Yes.
It doesn't affect me ultimately, right? You know what I mean?
Sure, we know. Yes, yes. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. I felt that in some of your recent postings, and you've given little hints of some movement in a direction rather than.
It is a direction, and I think you too might be a good beginning of getting a little feedback on it, if you don't mind.
Happily.
Um, so there's this kind of fountain flowering sort of thing where certain kinds of insights come and go, and they're all important to growing and relevant to how I manage the moment.
Mm.
Um, but there's a theme that's been growing since, I guess, about the end of 2020.
Oh, for a while.
Yeah. And it has a lot to do with what happened with me and Krishnamurti and what happened with me and in my Dzogchen life,
Okay.
which is eternal. And the word integration, as in conscious integration with the natural state,
Mm.
figures prominently in daily Dzogchen view.
Mm.
So integration has been going on since I was 4. And I'm a recognized reincarnate Dzogchen practitioner of some measure, but unnamed, unknown. I was recognized by the Dalai Lama's philosophy teacher, the Venerable Lama Geshe Gelsen.
Mm.
And that unlocked or opened the floodgates of a series of recognitions by highly realized masters of both Bon and Buddhism. And it took me to Tibet for a few months, where all of my feelings about what I might find there and what it would mean for me were there waiting for me, like they already knew I was coming.
Mhm.
And yet, even after all of that, there was still this, let's wait a second.
That was coming from you.
Yeah, my heart.
Mhm.
Because there's this itch I have, I'm putting it mildly, that I've had to scratch for a long time that has to do with the severity and length of the abuse I received from my father, which took years to resolve. A lot of somatic psychology.
Mm.
And that's what I am. I'm a somatic psychologist.
That would make you a good somatic psychologist.
Oh, yeah, I've been involved in the body in many ways my whole life.
Mm.
But be that as it may, so even after that, even after the resolution with my mother and father, even after the integration, even, integration going on through all of that, right?
Yeah, always. Yeah.
So, and still there's this weight, but now it's coming much more into focus. And now we go back to Krishnamurti. Krishnamurti put something in me in the fall of 1968 in the form of this powerful blast of energy,
Yes.
which just took me out of relativity completely. I'm not even sure he did it. You know what I mean? He
Well,
did
it's
it.
not,
He did
yes,
it. But in terms of the largest picture possible, no.
that
That
did it.
that did it.
That did it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's no Krishnamurti.
No. So that was like basically a seed that has revolved between Krishnamurti, somatic psychology, Wilhelm Reich, basically. Fritz Perls,
Right.
who I met when I was at Esalen when I was 15.
Oh, I.
And other key people that all influenced me at the same time in my life, all within a few months. And it really determined the direction of my life. And that has resulted now in me wanting to put out the energy of world healing.
Okay. There it is.
I'm the world healer,
Hmm.
but not like you think, at least not the beginning. I'm the inner world healer.
Right. And I presume there's no I that is there.
That's right.
So you're healing,
That's right.
loving.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Did the
Uh, uh,
Krishnamurti coincide with the Dzogchen, or was there one before the other, or what was going on there?
oh no, Dzogchen. I didn't know it was Dzogchen at that
I mean the
time.
recognition by the Dzogchen.
The Krishnamurti was when I was 16.
Mhm.
And the recognition by the Dzogchen masters and others started when I was 37.
Ah, okay.
Really?
I'm serious. If you have any kind of feedback from what I'm in terms of world healing and just basically putting the energy out there, like the idea of like the world healer is within,
Yes.
that kind of
Yes.
approach.
Mhm.
Yes. Mm-hmm. There's Colombe. I recognize her.
James, just before or just as you was arriving the first time, we were James Waite and I were talking about spontaneity as being, we could even look at the non-dual reality as being that.
Yes, absolutely.
And we were,
And spontaneity has everything to do with the bliss of
yes.
naked.
So that's kind of what we would like to unpack with you to begin with, and then see where we go
Okay.
from.
So we could start with nakedness. And it's impossible to have nakedness or immediacy for that matter without spontaneity. I like spontaneity in the sense that it seems to, oh, let's do something unexpected, spontaneous. But there's another part of spontaneity that has to do with what I see as like a pre-existent non-doing space that isn't available for everybody who is all oriented to thinking mind. There's this emptiness, like a potential, right? Something spontaneous happening. It's like a little electron popping out of nothing in space, right? And then of course, then there's that concurrent electron over there that pops out, and they pop in and out at the same time, but they're not connected. We could call that spontaneous, but it's obviously operating according to something that's pre-existent.
Yeah,
And
so
that,
I've been
right?
thinking about that pre-existent. I've been thinking about it as um, some kind of pure potential. So it's not anything in particular, but it's the source everything arises out of this potential
Yes.
spontaneously.
Yes.
And I think that as our understanding deepens, the spontaneity becomes more apparent. It's
Mm.
not like it's unavailable. It's more like it's not seen or not considered if you're in the mind thinking all the time.
Mm.
But as soon as you fall away from the mind, then the spontaneity begins to make itself known.
Yes.
And you realize that even the mind activity is spontaneous.
Mm. Oh yeah, like you can see spontaneity in mundane activity even.
Yes.
Could we say that spontaneity is life itself?
Why
Living,
not? Well, it's part of it. Has to be part of it.
vitality, potential,
The spark.
the spark.
Okay, now wait. What is there anything conditioned or preconditioned that goes into that spark?
Everything. I mean, there's no it's immediate and full. There's nothing missing. There's no lack. There's no past, no future. Just
I would
see
say that the conditioning is brought to bear on that by the thought stream, the mind.
I was going to say the observer is what causes it.
The conditioning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're seeing it from the different angles. Like the observer, because there's a kind of there's a knowing of the spontaneity, but I wouldn't say it's the observer. I would say the observer is a layer
Oh,
on
no, I mean the observer is a form of conditioning that projects what it sees onto the spontaneous.
yeah, and that projection, I feel in my experience here is a mental projection.
Yes,
It's a thought.
every effing time.
Yeah, and that's where the conditioning lens is right there
Yeah.
in that observer slash thought.
All right. Now, is that conditioning a personal doing or is it a reflex from the brain, which is not volitional?
Well, I don't think it's volitional, but I don't think it's a personal doing either. I think
Very,
it's
very political.
because a personal doing suggests volition.
That's what I mean. It's like, well, but the thing is that then why does everybody take responsibility or, feel like they have to take responsibility for it?
Right, that's another layer of conception right there. Just having to take responsibility. Like it's like asking a child to take responsibility for its skin color when it's born,
Uh, So
right?
when my dad beat me
Mm,
and it got inside me,
mhm.
I judged him by it cruelly. Maybe I had to.
Mhm.
Then in therapy, in somatic psychology, you're given that tennis racket and you're told to hit that pillow in a certain way. And you hit, and the therapist says harder, faster, harder, faster, louder. And you pass a certain point, and the discharge occurs, the natural discharge. It's very powerful, and it lasts only a few minutes, and it always ends with crying. I was terrified. And I kept saying, I'm too scared to do this. And my therapist would say, well, What's holding you back? Everything is ready. You're poised. You're ready to go. What is it? Finally, I started sobbing and I said, if I hit that pillow, I'm just like my dad. I'm my dad if I hit. I had to get over that one.
Yeah.
And I think in some way, most people have something inside of them that they're comparing with the outside world in some way that deserves a good looking at, because it's just holding you back from being true. And most people don't even know that that's happening in them. It's a shame. It's a terrible shame.
It's a subconscious thing then, James,
Yes.
which is what, 85 or 90% of our daily operational procedures is below our aware, I'll say aware,
Assumptions.
assumptions. That's a big deal. I mean, how do you heal if you don't even know that your attitudes and your hates and your fears are like a hand in a glove, manipulating all your experience?
Yeah.
Well, James, what came up for me in that as you were saying that when you got to the point where you realized that the behavior that you were in at that moment was your dad's, was you were becoming your dad.
Yeah. That was my big fear.
Yeah, that to me was the healing moment
Mm.
because suddenly you saw, or there was an opportunity to see that your dad wasn't in control of that either,
No.
that it was just happening through him.
Yeah.
And that's this immediacy. That's to me, that's what the immediacy tells is it's always in place. It's prior to everything. And it's a revelation. It's revealing the whole time in real time, real time in quotes.
So selflessness is like the other side of immediacy.
Yeah,
That's what we call it, naked.
yeah. There's no
And when,
self in that. That's
right,
right.
no self.
No self.
So you're no self and you're right now. You're
Yeah,
so right now, there's no room for anything in the past.
right.
It's
That's,
unreal. Yes, there is no past.
there
That's
is no past.
there's just
Exactly.
uh,
The word is just the means to the end of touching that selfless, timeless reality in you. And it's revolutionary, don't you know? It's quite revolutionary. The potential in it, talk about potential.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, world healing starts within
Your world.
your world. Yes, your your world, and that's really the only world we need to worry about. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, past a certain point that you see there is no world other than what you project, then the revolution cannot stop past that point.
Cannot stop.
That's right.
Yes.
Once you see that you're projecting the world and it's not real, then the revolution has a momentum that cannot be stopped.
And what is that revolution for you, James?
It would be characterized by the bliss. The bliss of naked immediacy is this natural wisdom. It can be characterized as a joy, for example, but there's a knowing in the bliss that refutes everything by itself. It doesn't do a particular kind of thing, but it totally refutes all you believe about yourself as a self. It effectively, the bliss erases, it truly erases whatever is holding onto identifying with the past in some way.
Yes, it's almost as if for the bliss or for that immediacy, none of that has actually happened.
Mm.
It's
Do you know the book's Self-Liberation Through Seeing with Naked Awareness?
I love the title, but I've not read that. But
It's by Padmasambhava.
okay, he was Tibetan.
He was a Tibetan Dzogchen master of
Mm,
renown, and there's many
mm,
stories about him.
mm.
But just suffice it to say, he had the sight, and so the title is every. If you understand the title, then you don't need to read the book.
Yeah, everything self-liberates.
It does. It does. You don't have to do anything. It
No.
self-liberates all by itself.
Yeah, that is that spontaneous immediacy. It's that.
You just wait long enough, it liberates.
Yeah.
Patience is everything here.
So I want to go back to that catharsis where you're seeing yourself as your father. And if it's too personal, you can let
No,
me
no,
know.
no. I've been through this so many times. It's just
But
another
but
story.
that seeing prior to anything else is is what we are pointing to, I believe.
Mm.
And it sees, and I put up something on the in the cafe maybe a week ago, and it was the idea that what is being seen, like I phrased it as whatever is seeing fear is fearless.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah, and so
I saw that.
whatever our condition, the seeing of that is unconditional,
Yes.
and that's what we are pointing at, I believe. This unconditionality, which is immediate, and which in itself carries this charge of, you say bliss. For me, it's more like a sense of peace. But I can
Mm.
definitely relate to the bliss.
Contentment is what touches me.
Hmm.
But in terms of the catharsis, um, the healing moment for me was in seeing that by being honest about that,
Hmm.
there was something happened which my conditioning couldn't anticipate. That was the breakthrough for me.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, Honesty, right? I have to say, I have to be very clear about how I feel, but no one has ever asked me how I feel. Really. No one has ever sat there and really looked at me and been patient enough to let me figure out how to say how I feel.
Uh, mhm, mhm.
And let me stumble and fall and get up and keep going over and over and over until I get it. And even then, you gotta, it's like this. When I forgave my mother, who was the last big forgiveness figure in my life, this music started pouring out of me, out of nowhere. I don't play music or anything, but I could hear it and I could hear the words. And I'm driving and I'm sobbing because it's so beautiful, right?
Mhm.
Nature has a way of replying when we get to that honesty, that level of honesty, and it's continuous, just like you were talking about earlier, about the signs of, what was it? I forget. When you reach a certain spot, then when you reach a certain part of spontaneity, then it keeps going or something. I talked about
You
the
begin to see
momentum.
it everywhere. You begin to
Yes,
see that everything is that.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is fun.
Well, it's a deep, I think that's the only reason that I'm involved wanting to do this kind of thing is I can't find a reason. I have no personal reason. I have no ambition or whatever. I can't even find a person that would have that ambition. But love is a four-letter word that kind of helps me kind of recognize a direction. There's a loving and going somewhere. Doesn't matter where it's going. It has really no direction, but it is moving, which is again the paradox that we move and have our being in. Multiple paradoxes.
And what do you think of intuition?
Intuition is to me, it's I'm not going to say it's everything. It's another way that this immediacy communicates.
Oh, very much so. And
Yeah.
what about nature spirits?
Nature spirits, it's not really part of my language, so to speak. But I do understand a bit more now, James, when you were talking about and James Waite was saying that you were healing, because, and I think this is for anyone that goes through a transformation, a healing transformation, that they then become agents of healing transformation.
That is exactly my motivation.
Yeah. And so that's what is naturally arising now. Because you went through that and you're beginning to reconcile and integrate that, now that's going to be what will start manifesting. And I think that's maybe a reason why we each of us, although we're one, we're also these individual aspects of that one. And each of us have a particular gift through that individuality. And that's what begins to move through. And it's not just anyone that's spiritually inclined. I think we see it in the world with certain people who are naturally just being what being wants them to be.
Yeah.
And they're not resisting it. And so I think that's it's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.